There are a few games that I call a masterpiece. A game that virtually has no flaws in any department. A game that stuns me in many ways. A game that changes me. Celeste is one of these games, and this is my love letter to it. So this is a video game about climbing a mountain. Okay, bye. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. Keep watching. The video hasn't ended yet. Okay, back to what I was talking about. Celeste was developed by Matt Forson and Noel Berry with a bunch of other talented folk. It tells the story of a girl called not Celeste. Celeste is the mountain. You're thinking of Celeste's monster. It's Madeline. Madeline is mentally ill. This may seem like it's out of left field, but trust me, it's important that we get that out of the way. Why? Because you are Madeline. Okay, you might not be mentally ill or named Madeline, but the theme of the game still works even if you aren't. It's important that we establish that the line between you and Madeline essentially doesn't exist. One of the very first lines is, "You can do this." This isn't voiced by anybody, this is directly to you. However, the previous line is implied to be Madeline, but isn't voiced. See what I mean? Celeste is pretty hard standing for the... shit! This is really important for later, helps to strengthen the bond with the character's arc. Not only that, but you can change the name of Madeline to whatever you want. I think I made my point. This game is pretty dense with content, and since I called it a masterpiece, we have to dig deep and get right into this big fucking steak. Before that, let's get this out of the way. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. I don't say things that might happen. Play this game or I'll come to your house and fucking make you play it myself. It's so cheap and it's like 30 hours of content. And speaking of content, a content warning. This game gets pretty heavy with the themes of mental illness. You ready? Let's go. I hit the table. Fuck my ass. The story of Celeste and its gameplay and design tie so well together, which is why it sucks to have to split them for this video to be cohesive. But it's worth mentioning that they tie together. You'll see. Celeste is a story about a young Canadian girl called Madeline. Madeline struggles with depression to such a degree that she decides to climb a mountain to try and overcome it. The story mainly tackles themes of failure, doubt, depression, and anxiety. Conversely, it is about embracing those emotions and fears and using them for good. Celeste is about confidence, determination, and success against overwhelming odds. And yes, you do literally climb a mountain. It's a good metaphor. Each character you meet represents an insecurity, a part of Madeline in a way. This includes a literal part of her we see later in the story. Grammy represents Madeline's defeatist parts of her. Theo represents social insecurity. Mr. O'Shea represents anxiety. And then we get to the part of her. That represents her depression. But it's not that part. Fuck it. The game never calls her Madeline, but outside sources do. Her name is Madeline now, okay? Can we deal with that for a bit? Anyway, mental illness isn't exactly a part of you, it's more of a miasma or a haze that clouds the good parts of you and keeps an impressive boot on your proverbial face. Madeline is so big mood that it's hard to define her. There's a part where Madeline deliberately tries to abandon Madeline. That's gonna be hard to say, isn't it? And Madeline responds by... Oh, answer me. We'll get to that. Let's talk about me for a bit. Hello, I'm Bat, and I have the weird brain. But I actually don't want to talk about that, because I have something that is both personal and conveys my point just as well. Sleep paralysis. I have chronic sleep paralysis. It's a condition where your brain sends the sleep message to your body, but your brain is still awake in some regard. In the early days, there will usually be pretty hardcore nightmares. A demon on top of me, screaming in my face that I suck, for instance. Visual hallucinations, auditory hallucinations, and the dreams will be different every single time. Usually a generic dream that morphed into a nightmare when I realized that my body was paralysed and I couldn't move. But there was a constant throughout all of them. Pain. I always had weird, jittery muscle cramps. I always felt a shock down my spine, which is by the way how your brain keeps you not from moving every single night. Yes, your brain electrocutes your spine. Just thought you'd like to know that. Because I feel that every single fucking time. It's really like delayed too. It's like you're paralyzed, and then your spine will get paralyzed. This is serious. And what was also constant was that fighting this inner self by challenging it, insulting it, always resulted in more pain. It's kind of nuts to think about having intense cramps and aches and pains, and then waking up the next minute and there's nothing. It's really difficult to explain, and most people only get a minor version once in their life. And most people think of sleep paralysis as seeing some kind of figure in the corner of your room. I never had that. Like it or not, there's a deep inner carnal sense of you that has the power to hurt you against your will. There's a part of your brain that will actively rebel against whatever part of your brain holds your subconscious. That fact scares me. It should scare you. You will likely have sleep paralysis at least once. Will what happened to me happen to you? Will you feel those kinds of pains? The visual and auditory screams? The feeling of being held down and suffocated? It could happen to you tonight, it could happen to me again. Maybe I lie down tonight, and it'll happen for 5 minutes. 5 minutes being trapped with that inner part of you that always had the chance to scream at you directly, but never had the chance to could whilst you're awake. And it happened last night. As I'm recording this, it happened last night. I had it again. And they can only have when you're awake. I've had moments where I've laid in bed and my brain randomly did the fucking sleepy message and my body shut down before my very eyes. As I was fully awake, my eyes completely open, and on my phone, I could type. I was able to type whilst under sleep paralysis. It's not the stupid fucking demon or a black unknown figure. Everyone gives sleep paralysis because apparently it's all sleep paralysis is. A fucking black humanoid standing in the corner with a big weird face on him. It's knowing your body or even part of your mind could go directly against you in an instant. It can happen to you, or maybe even me. But it doesn't have to be like that. As my brain got more and more used to the idea of sleep paralysis, and I learned to embrace it, I didn't get nightmares. I got weird, vivid, semi-lucid dreams. I got to have a small conversation with my inner self. I imagined beautiful worlds I could walk through, like floated towns like in Ponyo. And the pain subsided. It was a little still, but nothing as bad as what I had. The fear of this unknown, scary threat had subsided. Ever since, the screaming demon never came back. Sleep paralysis didn't have control over me anymore. It was just a vague negativity, a mild nuisance, nothing to worry about. It's just sleep paralysis, I'd think. Breathe easy. Don't fight it. You'll wake back up. Madeline learns this too. Madeline isn't an unknown alien threat, it's part of her. Not a piece of brain garbage that she can throw away, not a reflection, but a true part of her that's scared of failure. A warped defense mechanism that wants to protect her and will do anything to do so, including stopping her from doing what she wants. Madeline even considers herself pragmatic, which, coincidentally, is what my demon thought himself as well. Her power is increased by the mountain to a physical form, to represent a hardship so intense that your mental illness would be that strong in real life. Yet Madeline embraces this part of her, learns to cope and utilize it in a literal way. I want to stress that it's really hard to write about mental illness in a positive light, knowing that it does suck really hard. It's not that Madeline embraces negativity, more so the negativity doesn't overpower her. As we work up the summit, you can see the change in Madeline from doubtful to complete synchronicity with Madeline's feelings. Again, it's important to stress that Celeste isn't saying that mental illness is something you can do yoga or just think hard away. Madeline always keeps Madeline inside of her, even after finishing the mountain climb. Your mental illness is always there, from when it's at its most powerful to where even going back to Celeste Mountain in chapter 8, Madeline never reveals herself, even when she literally has the power to. It's a part of you. Don't let it control you, but don't deny it either. When you fully accept what you truly are, you can do so many amazing things. When mental illness is unknown, scary, and alien, it has power over you. Don't let it do that. We have to step back a bit, because I think I just wrote the conclusion in the first fucking segment. It's really hard to write about this game without going too deep into something or other. Everything meshes so well together that talking about one thing inevitably brings up so much more. I'm gonna try and stay on topic and simply say, we'll get back to that when needed. By the way, I've had a sleep paralysis episode where Sans just appears. Yes, Sans from Undertale just appeared, made the Sans noise, and I woke up. People don't talk about that. People don't talk about images burned into your retinas either. In that Sans episode, I woke up with a single text phrase that's all across my vision. Anyway, we could talk about sleep paralysis forever. It's whack. Let's talk about the characters instead, you know, like talking about Celeste in the Celeste video. How weird is that? Madeline, no, we can't do that one yet. No, simpler. Grammy. Grams, old bat, as I said before, represents the defeatist part of Madeline. It's the part of her that laughs at her for trying, for her naivety, and makes her want to give up and go home. We consider, like Madeline, that she's a crazy old woman. As it turns out, her warning about Celeste being fucking magic was true. Not only that, but in chapter 6 her words, "You aren't over it," and the preceding lines heavily imply that Grammy pushes Madeline to keep going out of spite. And you're at chapter 6. It worked, didn't it? There's a picture of Grammy in a gamer chair, don't ask, found on Instagram, with a picture of an unknown girl next to Celeste Mountain. And this is just my opinion and not objectively true, but I like to think that Gravity was that young girl. But that's just a theory. A theory. Thanks for... nope. Keep watching. She used to be Madeline and knows exactly what it's like to be in her position. Her house is literally at the base of the mountain, right where any climber would likely start. She knows exactly what buttons to push because she knows Madeline is determined, like you are. I think that's all I wanted to say about her. Yeah, she's an old woman. Next. Mr. Oshiro. Mr. Oshiro is a fucking ghost! He died! Mr. Oshiro represents anxiety, so much so that his insecurities and worries physically manifest as these red lads. Yes, they are hazards for Madeline. Mr. Oshiro is especially interesting because in the chapter you meet him, you fail to help him. Mr. Oshiro is so deep in his anxiety that you helping him makes him worry more, because he worries about making sure you have a good time at his hotel. As much as you and Madeline, see, it's gonna connect again, want to help him, you're powerless, as Madeline will eventually be the catalyst for Mr. Oshiro to go hog wild. Madeline hasn't helped herself, and because of that, can't help others. However, when Madeline says that Madeline does things for her own ego, that's not wholly untrue. Madeline has something to prove right from the start, and it's just silly to think that a person can change on her terms whenever she wants it, just because it inconveniences her, or doesn't make her look like a good person. Mr. Oshiro isn't beyond help, but when you're a fucking ghost, it implies the issues at hand are way too large for Madeline to handle. And that's okay. These things take time, as we can see later, Mr. Oshiro does change by the end of the game for the better. Mr. Oshiro needed Madeline there in the hotel to keep him in a safe idea of the hotel not being completely abandoned, and him not being a fucking ghost! But it broke boundaries, and it literally hurts Madeline, and that's where it's time to leave. Like Theo does. Through the vents. The bird. Theo. Theo is a perfect counterpart to Madeline. I could probably end it there, but you know, I gotta make the content for the masses. To me, Theo is a neurotypical person in the same position as a neurodivergent person. Theo and Madeline are both struggling with their life in similar but different ways. When I talk about Madeline, you'll see what I mean. Theo doesn't seem to struggle with mental health, as seen in chapter 6 when Theo asks Madeline directly what it's like. Unlike Madeline, he doesn't care about reaching the summit. He doesn't have a reason to be at Celeste at all. It's implied Madeline had this plan for a long time, but Theo went on essentially an urge. That's not to say Theo's a dipshit. He is a good person, albeit silly and comedic, for better or worse. He's there for Madeline and becomes friends with her pretty easily, even calling her his BFF on the first selfie they take. It's just that Theo's reasons for being at Celeste are very different to Madeline, but they are both in the same boat. Theo's insecurities are shown in chapter 5, which we'll get more into later. Theo prioritizes appeasing his fans and looking outwardly good over his safety and by extension Madeline's safety. He enters a fucking nightmare eldritch temple because he thinks he can get a cool selfie. Think about that. He feels that there's an audience watching over him, and he's contained to act in a certain way. When Madeline destroys that, he's free from the crystal containing him. That's when Theo lets his guard down and talks less like a millennial. The temple in chapter 5 is created by both Theo and Madeline, albeit Madeline has more influence. Those eyeballs aren't necessarily about Madeline, although they are. It's important to recognise that Theo's a good person though. He stays friends with Madeline despite not understanding her fully, and actively tries to understand her. He's good to his sister, and he's a perfect model of a friend of someone struggling with depression. He doesn't try to push anything, he has boundaries, he wants to understand, and he's there for Madeline at all times. Chapter 6 is so cool because instead of calling it Reflections in Mars, would be called, Hey, are you confused? Allow us, Matt and Noel, to exposit like all the character depth and lore at you. And yet it still works because it's much needed break from the hell that is chapter 5. Speaking of, a good gameplay / story mirror in chapter 5 is when Theo's in the crystal, he's required to progress. Not only that, but he's required for some buttons to even get through the exit door. Do you get it? Madeline and Theo needed each other to progress. And then you throw him at a giant eyeball. There's a metaphor there too for the cost of laser eye surgery. I guess we'll go with that. When I came into this game, I thought he was going to be a goofy sidekick that only existed when the game was comedic relief from the darker sides or difficult areas. In fact, I'm sure a lot of you guys felt the same way, that he was simply a goofball who valued himself with Madeline for the entire game. Matt and Noel could easily fall into that well, the same with the other characters, but didn't. They all have a connection to the story at large, as well as Madeline's psyche. I've been saying many times that Matt and Noel go out of their way in many places to do things just because they're cool, and you gotta respect that. It's good. It's well done. Love my boy Theo. Thank you for this meal. Next chapter. Madeline and the player. That's you. We're gonna keep this light. Madeline's probably one of my favourite characters in a video game. She's highly relatable, has a lot of depth, has an interesting arc, and has a lot of charm and wit. This is mostly done for the extremely well done writing of the story and dialogue, as well as the cute Animal Crossing-esque noises which change depending on the tone of the dialogue. This can be done for comedic effect as well as drama, and I think this is the first time I've ever seen the Animal Crossing style used like this. It's really cool. I can't forget to mention the character portraits. I mentioned them, let's move on. Madeline's a big breath of fresh air from the shallow characters we usually get in video games. If they're well written, they're usually dads, as seen in Dad of War and The Last of Us dads. I laughed at my own joke. Or if we get female teens, they're going to be in the main category or the Max Caulfield category.
That is a tasty plasma. Maybe I could sneak in and watch Final Fantasy Spirits Within.
Ugh. A little too angsty and a little too depressing. These aren't negatives, but Max Caulfield is a big negative. But it is just my taste. All the games I mentioned have great characters except Max Caulfield. It's just as good to see Celeste go the path it did with Madeline's arc and personality. Madeline has kind of a weird past. It's implied she has a sister and both a mother and father, obviously. But her sister or father is never mentioned, only her mother, who she calls in Chapter 2. I should add that Madeline has blue hair when she loses her dash, same colour as her mother, and Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't think that means anything though. There's even this one person that shows up in Chapter 2 who is never seen again, but from what they say, it's implied something big happened a few months ago. It could even be the catalyst for Madeline being here. But remember what I said earlier? You are Madeline. Madeline's backstory is deliberately made vague to make it the most relatable. There's a reason why her in-game sprite is faceless. Maybe. But really, the majority of us have a person we stop talking to but still have dreams about. The majority of us have an overprotective mother. The majority of us have a friend who is in the same place that we are, but is still supportive and understanding. Most of us are mentally ill in some way, but we all have or have had a big struggle to overcome. Madeline could have easily been written with some subtle points, but Matt and Noah go out of their way to make sure she's a very direct and very powerful arc, reinforced by the gameplay. You think that would conflict with what I just said, but her arc is so well written that it has the exact same feelings anyone else would feel going through what Madeline does. Let's just... I mean, I could write for hours about Madeline, like how her portrait has cracks in it, but since you are Madeline, it's better to just talk about the game, because you're playing the game. I hope. Please play Celeste. Please play Celeste. Please play Celeste. Also, Madeline's canonically gay and you can't stop me. Chapter 4. How the game perfectly describes mental illness. This is where it becomes really hard to keep this fucking script cohesive. I mean this video. I didn't write the script. I'm just a bat talking to you right now. A bat that can speak perfect English. That's all I am. A bat talking to you right now. Celeste, the game, is about the mountain. Celeste. It's about Madeline overcoming it. It's about Madeline overcoming her fears and anxiety and literally climbing a mountain. This game uses difficulty as a perfect metaphor because when you see something like this, or this, or this, you get a bit scared. You just get a bit scared, okay? We all get a bit scared by that. That's human. That's understandable. However, as I said earlier about the fear of the unknown, not that one, understanding it is the best way to combat it. If you replay Celeste after completion, you may notice how easy it is to get through. Quite a lot of Celeste screens are puzzles to understand, like the story for instance in Chapter 3. You're reminded of the worm, the nasty blob worms at the start of this screen. You'll see the story which you have to dash to get, but there's worms on the floor. 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 So thinking carefully, you have to make sure you can make the journey twice and reach safety. The use of death restarting you at every screen may be seen as a bad thing. That's understandable, but I don't consider it a flaw. To me, you can interpret this as how people approach mental illness day by day. Maybe you do good. Maybe you do really good. That'd be a strawberry. Or maybe you have a bad day and have to try again. My point is, you both take Celeste and improve your mental health step by step. Every screen is taken as a challenge, but a challenge you can overcome with enough tries. With the strawberries, there's probably an interpretation intended by the creators. But here's one anyway. Although they're a harder challenge than the usual challenge you get on A-sides, there's a loading screen tip that says, strawberries will impress your friends, but that's about it. Only collect them if you really want to. I like to see this as your self-worth isn't tied to completely arbitrary challenges or other people's ideas of what doing good is. It's a hard challenge, but even so, completing it is so sweet. Why don't any of you fucking shoot me for the things I say on here? I eat pasta with mayonnaise. There's a bit in Chapter 6 where she gives her bags to Theo before going for the summit. She drops her bags. She drops her bags. She drops her baggage. She drops... Do you get it?
What's up, demons? It's your boy. Yep, despite games as an artistic art form being a subjective artistic medium, I just gotta objectively exist anyway. I mean, why should people care about the more interesting discussion around how we all view art in subtle but different ways, which is a result of an extremely diverse culture and knowledge, or we can just, instead say whether The Last Jedi is objectively bad or not for the 1000th fucking time. Would you like the intro to be 3 hours and the intro to that intro be 1 hour long? I mean, I always thought fascists hated art, but now we have actual proof that it pervades through the modern day. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Mike.
The fuck was that? It's behind you. We can't put this off any longer. The Mirror Temple is the darkest this game gets. It comes immediately from the scene where Madeline has a panic attack, which you should watch this video by Conjecture on. It's a good video. Nice job, Conjecture. And it does not pull any punches. The temple is the place where the game deliberately fucks with the player and causes the stress to amplify fear for both you and Madeline. I'm going to evoke a video from another creator talking about Celeste. Daryl Talks Games' video called How Celeste's Mirror Temple Creates Fear / Forging the Level. It's good. Look, description. Go look. Do it now. Do it now. Do it now! To simplify what he said, blue candles symbolize safety, whereas yellow candles are used to simplify. Simplify? Fuck, I wrote the fucking thing in the script wrong. Simplify danger. Yeah, not symbolize. Simplify danger. Candles mean things, okay? Blue candles must be turned on, which means you have to push yourself into unknown areas to light them. Yellow candles are first introduced with the scene of the mirror. As we know about mirrors so far, kind of bad news. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's go step by step here. After the gondola? Shit. Gondola? No, fuck. Gondolo? Fuck. After the Shit. After the Gorgonzola scene at the end of chapter 4, we get Theo and Madeline chatting together. As mentioned before, Theo goes against Madeline's wishes and enters the temple without her. The temple has a great aesthetic going on, even from the outside. There's this weird sense of semi-organic, unknown architecture that seems to almost infect the mountain and spread out from it. Since mirrors are obviously a massive danger since chapter 2, it's no surprise that the Mirror Temple is, well, covered in fucking mirrors. Just head to toe mirrors. The walls here almost look like a long mouth with weird teeth. I think this is 100% intentional, as the depth transition here looks exactly like teeth closing down on something. Instead of the usual nice warm colours, almost close to pastels like in chapter 4, the inside of the temple uses very cold colours such as purple, grey and the darkish red. The spikes here even colour like blood. We find Theo's cell phone directly next to a mirror and above this terrifying eyeball. I believe Madeline's voice during this scene is unique, but don't quote me on that. So far we have a good tonal shift as well as a good rising tension. Theo's missing, and this place is entirely alien. So much so to go fucking Eldritch of all places. Maybe it was that fear of the unknown after all. This is in the next few screens. There's some good tutorials for the mechanics coming up. We get these blocks that only work when you dash and look very similar to the traffic lights from chapter 1. The red blobs are very, very similar to the blue ones from chapter 4, and we've got to give props as how simply it shows the switch here. I should also add how pretty much all the strawberries in this area are just tutorials for the mechanics. This chapter's just so fucking good. We're finally able to meet Theo again after he disappears from the first mirror, next to the 2 yellow candles. I like the use of pitch black to emphasise how important blue candles are from now on, as well as to amplify dread. I also like how the dialogue used keeps the tension building. We're on our own again, and the game will now deliberately try to mess with our sense of direction. The room might be maze-like, or we'd be plunged into darkness, or doors will slam on us. It creates an oppressive mood pretty effectively. What we'd assume to be pits like in previous chapters that would kill us are just floors in darkness. I like how there's 2 yellow candles next to the statue of this tenderly lad. They're called Seekers. I should also add that the thing that eats Madeline in chapter 2 looks very similar to a Seeker. We're gonna get some more whack imagery going on, like this giant statue of... What the fuck is this? There's some fawns too, which is imagery. I don't think I need to explain what the fuck fawns could mean. We get some more oppressive atmosphere with more plunging darkness, yellow candles, and slamming doors. Let's get to the important bit, this room right here. It's pitch black except the glow for the switches and the 2 candles you turn on, which doesn't help show what's going on. Only until you light one torch do you see it's a curtain. This is where the tension's going to relax for a while. You should no doubt be pretty nervous by this, as it reveals a giant fucking mirror, an already cracked mirror, that we get sucked into. This is the first and only time we switch controls from Madeline to something else. This is a Seeker. This is both a pretty uncomfortable scene as well as a good tutorial for how the Seekers work. They destroy dirt, they get repelled by this shield, and they eat Madeline. There's even a little animation of her trying to run away as she gets eaten. This, coupled with the music, doesn't really diffuse tension, but it does give the player a very small amount of breathing room. Madeline wakes back up and we're greeted with probably the most blatant and heavy use of imagery. Unnaturally contorted red thorns, wires, these weird moving spike things, more yellow candles, eyes, and Madeline. This is pretty uncomfortable, and I probably don't need to go into all the imagery for why this is the case. It's certainly pulling a Yume Nikki on us, right now, should we say. We meet Madeline, and Madeline uses a bad coping mechanism, which is shifting blame, to try and fight back. This culminates in the second most uncomfortable experience the game gave me. Madeline's voice, used for Q effect like in Animal Crossing, turns into a high-pitched whimper, and she starts to panic like in the gondola. It still makes me... I'm a man. It still makes me tear up. I have a theory that the writing of Madeline is used to paint her like an abusive person. Lines such as...
Stop making me feel like I'm a monster. All I do is babysit you, and you hate me for it. You want to know why? Because you deserve this.
reinforce that theory in my head. That's just a personal assumption though. The next screen is about 6 Seeker statues next to each other, which is already a weird thing, and after passing by, one will animate and turn into a proper Seeker like from Madeline's dream. Moving on, Madeline collapses a mirror and starts blaming herself. This is her low point before the real low point of the story, and it's a good addition here, especially since she's in the Hell dimension. I just really like the quotes used here. The mirror version of herself, which is not Madeline, responds by telling her to breathe and think of the feather. I don't get the use of the echoey mirror self here, I might be missing interpretation, but I'm not sure. Moving on, we approach another pitch black room with a Seeker above us, and let's just get this over with. There's a track that plays in this area with vocals for the first and only time. They're backwards. Reversing them plays this message. I didn't know about this before starting the script. I just started crying. I just sat in my room and cried. I'm a big man, okay? Games take a lot to make me cry. I don't think I've even cried from a game. This might be the first. The track itself is so depressing already, but the voice is just too real. The way the whispers sound exactly like someone's scared, and the way at the end it just devolves into sobbing, it really got to me. Hats off to Matt and Noel. Fuck you, Matt and Noel. We're gonna skip to where we meet Theo. There's so many fucking eyes, dude. So many eyes. Theo does confirm that the eyes in the crystal he's held in are a result of him, and everything else is a result of Madeline's. There's so much good dialogue here that I do recommend replaying Chapter 5. Or if you're still at this bit and haven't played Celeste, go play Celeste! As mentioned before, this new mechanic of Crystal Theo is a metaphor for both how Madeline and Theo need each other. We get a little relaxation from the tension as we do some puzzles with the Seekers, which, by the way, are the most annoying mechanics Celeste has. Maybe I'll talk about the flaws later. Moving on, we reach this row of wall teeth, as I mentioned earlier. Something's pushing us back every second, the screen gets more staticky, the music is almost screaming, and eyeballs aplenty. Giant eyeball! You throw Theo at it and the exit's revealed, removing the giant eyeball and the mini ones too. Theo has faced his inner demons with the help of you, and we get chapter 6. Both of them have had themselves tested by the mountain, and we can finally breathe. Get it? Get it? Yeah. Let's talk about something else before coming back to the story. Chapter 6. How Celeste, the game, helps you overcome Celeste, the mountain. Celeste is probably one of the hardest platforms you encounter. Celeste is probably one of the most forgiving platforms you'll encounter. Let's discuss how both of these can exist in the same game. I'll give a passing mention to the assist mode. It's a very nice addition which has enough scaling in it to go from a very slight benefit to essentially, I just feel like skipping this. I would have liked to see more added, such as the weird curving effect of the golden feather removed, or certain enemies having delays to the movements. But this is good enough that pretty much anyone can feel comfortable using it without feeling like it's cheating. There's definitely an argument to be made that Celeste having an assist mode defeats the difficulty of Celeste, but since the changes can be so minute, I really don't give a shit! I skipped a few screens with the assist options, but for most screens I had enough confidence to go through them without trouble. It's like Dark Souls, innit? Speaking of confidence, Celeste does a damn good job in working confidence up for each chapter. Let's go for the first chapter, City Ruins. The players learn the basics of dashing, jumping, and climbing. City Ruins seeks to establish a base mechanical strength, shall we say. Chapter 2 expands on this by using around the same difficulty, but adding ostensibly a time limit to your actions. The first jump requiring just a jump, the second requiring climbing and jumping, or dashing, and the third a dash or a very well placed jump. Next screen we get tested with a slightly harder dash to perform, as well as a strawberry for people who time their dash properly. We also get our first wall jump introduction. By the third screen we're seamlessly combining all of what we learnt so far. Let's talk about the traffic light block here, a new mechanic entirely. Visually it's pretty obvious how it's going to work, it's a fucking traffic light for fuck's sake. These spikes here should tell any player who isn't patient that these blocks have momentum. The next screen has a traffic block used to lift you directly up, which should hopefully teach momentum by then, but you can still get through it without momentum just fine, even for the strawberries. I could go on forever. The game very carefully ramps up difficulty and strings together mechanics you understand to create gauntlets of challenge. New mechanics are usually introduced by themselves in a very safe environment, before slowly giving you information and giving you more confidence before adding difficulty. Not only this, but there's usually multiple ways to traverse the same screen. For chapter 1, you could conceivably give 4 for each area: climbing focused, dash focused, speed running, and dashless. Yes, you can literally do the first chapter without using the titular dash. Movement is very precise, and the margin of error, at least for the non-B sides and C sides, is pretty forgiving. Momentum from moving blocks isn't as frame perfect as you think it is. There's a forgiving window of time. This makes moving around Celeste's world to be relatively simple and forgiving, and challenges to be more practice makes perfect than trial and error. Not only that, but the game actively encourages you to keep going, and never makes fun of your deaths. Be proud of your death count. The more you die, the more you're learning. Keep going. There are certainly areas which feel much harder than they look, especially in the B and C sides, but at that point Celeste is giving you a lot of time to learn and understand. There was a few times when I was close to giving up, 5 more goes before using assist, and did it. It wasn't luck, it was pure skill and patience. We'll come back to this. Chapter 7. Reflections on the Summit, and why I love this game. There's a certain beauty in this game that's hard for my fucking troglodyte brain to get across as well as I want to. It's hard not to get my point across when talking about where it shines brightest. Reflections and the Summit. Let's get through them. Reflection starts after the nightmare there's the Mirror Temple. Madeline and Theo sit by a campfire and just talk. This is the first and only time we get dialogue choices, although it's just the order of dialogue you want to view. I've essentially covered each character already right at the start of the video, so talking about the scenes is just saying the same thing twice. I will add a few new things though. I like how the stars are randomised for the background. I love the use of the dialogue sounds. The music's great too, harkening back to chapter 1's music when you first meet him, as well as the leitmotif you can hear in the background. I love the dialogue in general. Great scene. Let's move on. We wake up from our dream, and we know it's a dream because the green campfires we use from chapter 2. And Aurora Borealis is happening, and the previous distant leitmotif is now the sole sound for music. We grab a physical embodiment of the feather and fly up. Love the use of these glass blocks here. They have a great feel and look to them, which is very, for lack of a better term, dreamlike. As we float further and further up, the music gets more and more sinister, until Madeline appears. Madeline's dialogue here is really nice. Let's highlight the important stuff. I love how Madeline's voice quavers like Madeline's did before she calls us stupid, which also adds the drums to the music track. And then the tendrils appear and she climbs out of her dialogue portrait. We get the feather scene again, and if you can just leave me behind, if you can blame everything on me, think you're above me? Holy shit, this game. Whew, okay. Oh, answer me. Oh no, Madeline. Calm down, please. Calm down. Breathe, Madeline. Use the feather. I'm going up as hard as I can right now. You gonna think about... Oh, it stopped. It deliberately stopped the feather. You think anything about its feathers to stop me? Ah! You're not above me. And you can't climb this mountain. Don't accept that. That is just fucking weird. Madeline, what's happening? Oh shit. That's not good. I was wondering where those crystal lights would... I was wondering why there was like crystal stuff down there. Oh fucking hell. Oh, are we still going? Oh, we're still going. We're still going. Jesus Christ. Welcome to chapter 6. You probably should now notice the screen transition. This is the low point of the story, not the mirror temple. I like to interpret the feather as, like it would be in real life, a small temporary solution to small issues. It's a band-aid over a wound. The feather, like a band-aid, would be better than nothing, and might be helpful in some cases, but at some point you gotta confront like cut your legs off with a sword. I'm sorry about that. Please see a doctor. There's a certain beauty to this area, despite what we just witnessed. You're in the lowest point in this game, and yet the grass is lush, the spikes are lovely pink, and the water is clear and beautiful. It's weird to consider that the mirror temple is where Madeline is doing better than in the crystal lake. When my sleep paralysis demon was on top of me, screaming at me, I was still in my bed. I was still in safe surroundings. I was in the comfort of my home, and yet I was terrified. Madeline's having the hardest adversity of her journey, and she's at rock bottom, but the scenery is beautiful. I like to interpret this as how we have internal struggles whilst the world around us is doing completely fine. At rock bottom, will Madeline's greatest threat be her giving up? Well, you're still climbing, aren't you? I don't even want to get into new mechanics introduced. What matters is everything else. There's a scene where you cry in a secluded spot, ready to accept defeat, angry at yourself, angry at that part of you, but you keep going. There's a scene where Granny laughs at you, and you relent, angry at her. You aren't over it. You aren't done yet. Not here. You clearly aren't over it. Celeste Mountain is a place of healing. The first step of healing is confronting the problem. It's never easy. And then you encounter the tendrils again, and you charge at them. No more running. There's a scene where you confront Madeline and you apologise to her, despite everything. And despite the relenting of Madeline, you state, let's climb out of here. Together. Together. Oh, that was so cool! Nice job, guys. She says don't come any closer, you'll regret it. So you dash right into her stupid fucking face, and the music kicks in. There are moments in games where I'm reduced to talking like this. I could run an in-depth analysis for 20 minutes just for this scene. Like how, let's climb out of here, together, is a direct callback to a quote by Madeline. But does it matter? If a game is so strong that just simply saying, look at this, is enough to explain why it's good, why even go in depth? This is Celeste. It may be a game about mental illness, but it's a game about confronting it too, and you fucking confront the shit out of it! As Madeline gets closer to her goal, Madeline starts to guilt trip you.
I did you a favor. You aren't a mountain climber. I'm just trying to help you. None of this would have happened if you listened to me.
And then you land the final blow, and all the spikes break, and she's lying on the ground, her face glitching out.
Fine. You win. I guess that you don't need me after all. If you want me to go away, I'll try.
That's not what I want. I need your help now more than ever. Please, let's work together.
Work together? You're joking, right?
It's okay to be scared. Oh. 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 She's got painted nails as well. The Chaos and as you gain, apparently, the fucking Chaos Emeralds, you level up, and your hair turns pink. Second dash. I'm running out of things to talk about, so let's just point out the nice things before Chapter 7. I love Madeline's mechanic where she literally grabs you and throws you higher up. It's a really clever mechanic that ties into the narrative. I love the music here as you ascend. I love the entire dialogue, and I love how she drops her bags. She drops her baggage. Do you... Yeah, you do. Speaking of confronting yourself... Well, here we are. You saw what they did. We don't have to be angry at each other or other people anymore.
But it's so fun!
It's so fun! I love doing it too. But let's do it together, and in a more productive and positive way. We can show everyone how much they suck. Through love. What do you say, old friend?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's talk about Chapter 7. If Chapter 6 was the lowest point, then we're going to reach the literal high point. Notice the screen transition and the music, which is the same music right in the prologue. At 0 meters, we learn how to double dash effectively in our surroundings. We're getting the hang of that!
If you say so.
This man doesn't stand a chance!
Stop jinxing it.
At 500 meters, it's the city again. Notice the music change. Do you remember traffic lights and falling blocks? Of course you do. How are you feeling?
I'm fine. I'm just waiting for something to go wrong.
No matter what happens, I'll be right there with you.
You know what's really scary? I'm starting to believe you.
At 1000 meters, we're in the ruins. Again, the music change. Do you remember dream blocks and switches? Of course you do.
Nice job back there.
Look at you! Miss Positivity over here. You're so supportive.
Don't push your luck.
At 1500 meters, we're in the hotel. Again, music change. Do you remember the red blob stuff? Of course you do. I hope Mr. Oshira's okay.
Why? He treated you like garbage.
Yeah, but I still care about him. And you'd have to snap at him like he did.
Whatever.
I mean it. You're way too aggressive.
Well, you put too much energy into bad people who will just end up hurting you.
Mr. Oshira isn't a bad person.
He transformed into a monster. He tried to hurt you. And now you're defending him?
I'm not defending him. I'm on your side here. I'm mad at him too. I might still be at that hotel if you hadn't forced the issue. But I still hope he's alright.
Okay, I'm sorry. For snapping at Mr. Oshira.
Thanks. It's in the past now. 2000 meters. Music. Remember? Of course. That was a close one.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we'd make it.
Maybe you were right. Maybe this is too dangerous.
No, I was wrong. We can climb this mountain. I've got your back. And I believe in you.
That means a lot to me. 2500 meters. This is it. The home stretch. We're so close. We're going to make it.
Yeah.
What's wrong?
I'm sorry, I was holding you back. I need to learn to trust you.
It's not your fault. I tried to leave you behind, and honestly, I've been trying to leave you behind my entire life. I'm sorry. I should try to understand you sooner. I was too proud or stubborn or something.
You wasted so much time and energy. But at least we're talking about it.
Yeah. I'm glad the mountain brought you out. I think we can move past this. If we can climb this mountain together, we can do anything.
What if we don't make it?
I'd be okay with that.
You would?
Of course. I'm just glad we're trying. I really needed to do this.
I'm finally starting to understand why. Let's finish it.
3000 meters. In this, where a checkpoint would be each screen, Checkpoints are little flags that shoot out confetti with a countdown to how close you are. For everything up until 19, the wind is against you, and then it lifts you upwards. Even the mountain wants you to win. 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As the rain turns to gentle snow and the music fades into nothing but the sound of wind, you reach the summit.
We actually did it. I can't believe it.
Wow, it's so beautiful. Look how far we've come.
I'm glad to see you this before I...
Oh, right. When I leave the mountain, you won't be able to talk to me anymore. At least, not like this.
Yeah. I know that we need to go home eventually, but it'll be scary to lose this body.
You'll still exist, though. You were part of me before we came here.
Yeah, I know. But I'm gonna have to depend on you to listen to me. Even if I can't talk to you in person anymore. I just... can't go back to how it was before. Before the mountain.
Don't worry. I can't go back to that either. I really want us to work together from now on.
I believe you. But I'm still nervous. So... now what?
Let's just enjoy this for a bit. There's something about Celeste I can't put into words. The sum is the rare time I literally cannot give it the justice it deserves with the English language. There are games that might be masterpieces on one front. Maybe they're artistically beautiful. Maybe they have an amazing soundtrack. Maybe they're mechanically perfect. Celeste does all of these better than a AAA company was able to put out in years, and it delivers on all fronts. I could talk about the little flaws like how this lava block is finicky due to lack of visual feedback, or that Chapter 8's mechanics and Chapter 6's should have been switched for better narrative game cohesion, but who the fuck really cares? If a few people in a shed can give this, imagine what the games industry could truly be. There are times when we think of the games industry as a soulless machine, outputting the safest thing possible, and it's easy to lose hope. But Celeste brings a shining beacon to what we should aspire to be and to make. Celeste made me realise again why I love games, and to talk about games, and to make things, and why I'm passionate about games, and why I care about games, because Celeste exists, and it's perfect. And if this isn't, then nothing is. Thank you, Celeste. Thank you, Matt and Noel. Hello, this is Bat, and if you're listening, this is the end. This is the credits. I'd like to thank D-Pad AC and Strawberry Pirates, who both did amazing art, especially D-Pad AC. They did absolutely amazing art for free. I cannot thank them enough for that one. Daryl Talks Games and Conjecture. I used videos in terms of knowledge about Celeste, which I didn't think about until I, watched their videos. So watch their videos. They gave me knowledge. Eric Taxon was kind enough to give me some music for free. Thanks for that. Telecommunications, great album. Amanda and Batco both voiced the Madeline and Demon, respectively. Thank you so much. You did this for free, and I can't thank you enough for doing things for free, just because I asked nicely, and then got very angsty about it. And lastly, thank you, because you're at the end of this video, and, well, people that view my content all the way to the end are the lifeblood that keeps me going. They're why I make videos, because I know there's an audience out there that loves this kind of shit. I'm gonna open a Patreon now, so yeah, if you'd like to donate to me on Patreon, go right ahead. And lastly, a shout out to Hbomberguy, who always keeps me alive. And also the Celeste Discord, who gave me some knowledge as well. The Celeste Discord is great. Thank you for giving some information about Celeste which I didn't know, such as where to get the audio. Apparently you could just rip it straight from online. They have it public. Holy shit. If I miss anybody, they're in the description, okay? Goodbye. And I love you. After the epilogue, there's the core. 1 year later after Madeline's journey. Mechanically, it introduces some nice things. It's a good challenge for people looking for one. I like it because it asks the player to complete the game fully before being able to progress all 3 times. But the core isn't the interesting part of this. What's interesting is the C-side you obtain from completing the core's B-side. After you've reached the summit of 7th Sea, you're greeted with a cherry blossom tree, and the last dialogue you'll encounter in the game. It's hard to believe it's over, isn't it? Funny how we get attached to the struggle. Promise me you'd take care of yourself, okay? Well, what are you waiting for?